Hey everyone, welcome to TSP Weekly. This is your tech startup podcast for Thursday, July 17th, 2014. Today, once again, we're at the Center for Entrepreneurship at the Dune campus of Conestoga College. And as always, my name is Darren Conley. I am a local tech entrepreneur here in Kitchener-Waterloo. And joining me once again, my co-host, the good, the excellent, the always entertaining, Mr. Stephen Campbell. How are you today, Stephen?
I'm good, Darren. How are you doing?
Fine.
I wanted to talk about astroturfing, social commerce, and stickiness today.
Wow.
Do you have a favorite or a preference?
I don't know if they're on the agenda, but throw one of them at us.
So let's talk about astroturfing. Have you guys seen the commercial with Captain Obvious and Hotels.com where they go into a creepy hotel and they see a finger in the corner?
I haven't.
And Captain Obvious talks about, I wouldn't stay here and I wouldn't sleep here. And you should look for our website because it has real reviews done by real people.
Okay.
As opposed to an astroturfed review. So astroturfing is creating a false grassroots campaign. And often people will do it for their company or against the competition to say that we're the best and we love doing business with Stephen and Darren, when in fact it's us saying that we did business with us. Or we hate doing business with Stephen and Darren. Our competitors would say that. So it's false. Right. Often found on sort of Yelp or Google places and stuff like that. So it's actually, there's a word for it. It's called astroturfing.
I did not know that. You know, you always come up with these interesting insights at the start of the podcast.
Sure, it's Google.
We should collect these all together in one special podcast one day. And
I know you want to know what stickiness is. We'll save that for next week.
Yeah, we'll save that for another podcast because we should introduce our guest that we have with us today, Mr. Jeff Horst from Echosims. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what Jeff's involved in later in the podcast. Echosims does website design, creation, as well as digital marketing online. And he's also involved in another project called Meersocial, which we'll hear a bit more about later. But welcome to the podcast, Jeff.
Great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Good to have you around, man.
Back to my home.
Conestoga, that's right.
Yeah, you did spend some time at Conestoga, I guess.
Yeah, I did 3 years here in marketing co-op program. So
hard time.
3 straight years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But it feels like a while ago now.
Sure. How long ago was it?
Yeah, about 3 years ago.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
So
those past 3 years feel like a long time.
Sure. Well, nice to have you around again. We're going to talk about a little bit of tech news here. So, Jeff, I don't know if you got a chance to look at any of this stuff. We typically, for those who don't know, who are listening, we typically send our guests maybe 24 hours notice of what we might be talking about in the podcast. So,
I'm not a tech guy, so I was all worried this was going to be all techie. So I did read the articles just in case you asked me a question, and I'm like, I know nothing, so I did read the articles.
We don't get too hardcore technical, I think, for the most part, right? But yeah, the first thing we wanted to talk about, the Google Modular Phone. Now, this was something that kind of showed up online months ago, I think, is the first time I saw it, the concept for this. But what's happening now is Google's putting out a call for developers to get involved in their modular smartphone project. And for those who haven't seen this thing before, the idea is, you know, any smartphone is made up of a whole bunch of components, right? You have your camera, you have your display screen, you have the speaker, you have the microphone, usually a front and or back camera attached to it. I don't know what else.
Different size screens.
Different control
Bluetooth,
and buttons and stuff. Yeah, that's right. So there's all kinds of pieces that go into a smartphone. The idea with this modular smartphone is you would be able to custom design which pieces you want to be part of your phone, and you can mix and match and swap out when you want to upgrade. So, you know, I might buy the 6-megapixel phone initially, but now I want the 12-megapixel one. I can just pop out that piece like a chunk of Lego and pop the new one in and keep going on my way, right? If I want to upgrade the processor, if I want to upgrade the memory storage, it's just as simple as taking out the old piece and putting a new one in. So
what if you break your screen? Can you just replace it?
Yeah,
that would be the most practical piece.
That's true.
My business partner could use that. He drops his phone weekly. So
really, I've seen a lot of spiderweb screens out there.
It is.
Yeah. My cousin, my niece actually has one, her iPhone, and it's been shattered, and she still uses it. So
that would be a great business plan.
Yeah, that's good thinking.
So, and I guess the idea really is rather than when I want to get a better piece of my phone, now I don't have to go out and spend money to buy a whole new phone. I can just buy that one piece and works out better for everyone. Less waste and more flexibility.
And it's also a better entry level. So if I have $50, I can buy the base model or the sort of the core of it, and then I could add to it. So the entry level is a lot smaller than the entry level iPhone or Android phone or something if you're just being able to build it piece by piece.
Sure.
And the repairs are very cheap.
Yeah, that's right. Because they're only fixing the one piece or you're just changing it out. So I guess the news right now then is they're looking for developers. Apparently the deadline for the first group of developers to apply for their program is July 18th, which is probably the date that you're downloading and listening to this podcast, where we usually upload it the Friday after we record it, and that'll be tomorrow, the 18th. But there's going to be another cohort, in the next month that can get on board. There's $100,000 up for grabs for whoever develops the best module for this modular phone, and the official name it looks like here is Project Ara, A-R-A. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So I guess we kind of touched a bit on you guys' opinions of this already, but could you see yourselves buying a modular phone? Do you think this is something that would appeal to you, if only for the screen replacement factor, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for my purposes, I don't use half of the stuff on a phone, so I don't care that it has the best camera. I don't use my camera phone that often.
Sure.
So certain pieces, if it's going to save me money, then and maybe certain sections I can make better.
Sure.
I like a faster processor. That's something, doing a bunch of emails and I don't know. For me, I find a lot with the hotspot. I use that option a lot on my phone, and I find phones aren't really used to that yet, and I think they have to improve that piece of a phone yet. So if you could boost that portion of your phone, so it's not overheating.
Using your phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot, is that what you're?
Yeah, I use that a lot. You never have?
Not
I've
once,
done that. I've only done it a few times. But
I actually don't buy home internet anymore.
Really?
But do you have like an incredible data plan for your phone?
Yeah, we probably shouldn't talk about that. You can negotiate when you have business plans.
I bet.
A little threatening here.
See, I think I get 2 gigabytes on my plan, so I can't abandon.
Right now, it's unlimited, so it works.
So that
and it's fast.
Awesome.
It's
LTE.
LTE.
Yep.
So
that's awesome.
If you can make it work, then that's
But
amazing.
I get warnings. I don't even know if you knew there was an option on your phone. I get a warning that my battery, like my phone's overheating. Because if I charge my phone while I'm doing the hotspot, it actually overheats. But anyways.
Wow, crazy. So
Thermonuclear.
maybe with the modular phone, you could get like a cooling
that.
module or something that would
a big fan.
take care of that issue.
Or a misting machine.
It detracts from the portability, but...
so that's my concern is that this thing is going to be big and it's going to be heavy, and Apple spends so much time making my iPhone look so slick and cool and minimal, but it's got all the stuff in it. I just upgraded my phone from a 3GS to a 5C or S, I'm not sure which one, the fingerprint one.
One of the C's.
And that was a 2-year wait with an old device that I hated. So I don't know if I want to have to be constantly thinking about what module do I have? Is it the latest? Is it the greatest?
Yeah.
I kind of like the Ronco food dehydrator. They used to say set it and forget it.
Right.
So I like that. Like I just buy it and I know everything's there and I don't have to worry about. And I'm a developer, so I kind of like the tinkering aspect of it, of the Lego thinking. Yeah. But I'm worried that it's going to be more expensive overall because I'm going to want everything on it. So I'm not the $50 I don't need stuff. I want all the gadgets.
Right.
Even though I haven't used the hotspot yet. I feel that it's important I have it for some strange reason.
Do you realize how many gadgets are on phones these days?
Tons, eh?
Oh, yeah.
There's a manual that no one reads that exists somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's my other concern. Is it optimized, right? Because you're sticking them together, and then how many configurations are we really going to have? Because we got 10, right? Like we got a phone, we got a camera, we got a speaker, we got a this. But how many configurations are we really looking at?
The size thing is a question, right? So say if I have a phone that only uses... I don't know how many modules are absolutely essential to the functioning of a phone. I'm assuming you at least need a screen, a battery, a processor,
the speaker.
Yeah, a speaker.
Microphone.
There's a bunch of things that are kind of essentials, and then everything else is extraneous. So if you had the bare bones essentials, like it might only be, let's say, 3/4 of the size of a typical phone. Well, I guess the screen is really gonna determine how big or small the overall unit is, I guess, right? But
and they're all connected by magnets, I guess, which is interesting.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't
it's
even know.
It's a strong magnet.
So then if you really beefed it up and wanted every single possible thing you could throw into that thing, does it turn into the size of a small
football,
tablet or something, right? Like or an iPad-sized beast by the time you've put on all the bells and whistles. I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I think Google called it the Google Moonshot, where they're really not banking on it, but it's if it takes off, it would be cool.
Right.
Google Moonshot.
There's a few things we've talked about, not on the podcast, but offline about, they're cool ideas. There's a lot of buzz about the idea, but who knows if it'll actually go on.
Yeah, but we'd never really use it, but we like talking about it.
Yeah.
Ideas are cheap.
It's true.
Yep.
And it's funny. Sometimes that you get ideas that everybody wants to talk about and nobody buys, and then you get other things that seem to fly under the radar. Nobody really cares. Like Twitter, when it first came out, there was a lot of shrugging, and now all of a sudden it's it's part of the main ecosystem of the internet. Right. So. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, let's move on to our next article here. Netflix. Do you guys use Netflix? Do you have Netflix?
I have, and then I am not a current subscriber, probably for the reasons.
But you did in the
past.
I
have
Netflix,
in the past.
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah, and I was the same. I got it for I think it was 3 months for free or something, and then $9 a month, and found there was a lack of Canadian content, so I canceled it too.
You canceled because there wasn't enough Canadian content?
No, there was. I think it was
there was a lack of
I
content on the Canadian version.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't looking for more kids in the hall. It was.
I wasn't sure about that comment either.
Yeah, I need more Little Mosque on the Prairie. Damn it.
That's good.
Yeah, CFL just can't get enough.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Don't let my dad over here dissing the CFL. He has season tickets to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So
I feel sorry for him.
Anyway, Netflix. There was a funny video on The Onion. If you guys ever see the Onion News Network, they do satirical news. A funny Onion video that I saw on YouTube where they said, and of course this is all in jest, but they said they were releasing a new subscription plan for Netflix that was $5 a month just to browse through the titles but not actually be able to watch anything. And the kind of joke was, this is what 90% of our customers tend to do anyway, so why not give them a cheaper option just to kind of endlessly browse without being able to view any of the actual content.
I think it's your personality, because I've been with those people and they want to review like 30 videos, and by the end you narrow it to 15 and then to 10, and then by the end you're like can't even watch the ones you narrowed it to because there's not enough time left.
Yeah,
and
it's time to go home.
I don't even want to watch a movie now anymore.
So the article here is about a new startup that makes it easier to actually find stuff that you want to watch on Netflix. It's called a Better Queue. Queue, queue as in lining up or making a list. And what they do is they'll take the ratings from Rotton Tomatoes, one of the major places online that has movie ratings, and order your preferences according to the Rotten Tomatoes ratings. So that way you can see does this look interesting, and you can automatically kind of see if it's something worth watching, at least according to the opinions of film critics.
Well, can you choose which critic site you use? Because I personally don't trust Rotten Tomatoes.
Right. It's at the moment, I think Rotten Tomatoes is the only option. So, I mean, it would be cool if they could get IMDb ratings in there, or they could get Metacritic or something like that. But maybe this is, a good suggestion for a way that they can roll out further functionality is tie it into the other site so you can choose, or do an amalgamation of multiple kind of ratings options. That way, maybe the ratings of your friends. I don't know. Make it social. Does that sound appealing? I don't know.
There's a real problem because both Jeff and I canceled it. One of my reasons was there was not enough content. So I think there's a big problem if you're going to start to filter that content. You're going to come up with even less.
Right.
So let me see, these things that I want to see, and I can't find them by myself. And some of it, I think, is they have a poor search UI, and that it's not very effective to find stuff you want. But I think part of it is there's just nothing there. So I think this app might illuminate that the Canadian Netflix is still behind. It's light years behind the American. So unless you're spoofing your IP address and using the American one, I don't know that this app would work for Canadians. Also, they don't have a mobile app. So it's all browser-based on your mobile phone. So if I'm sitting on the couch and I don't really want to get up, go to my computer or my laptop. I want to look on my mobile phone from the couch. So I don't know.
Apparently it's mobile-enabled. Like it's a responsive website design, so you can still use it.
And my personal opinion on that would be, if done right, you don't even need an app.
Right.
Because
so that's
no one wants to download apps, really.
Right.
If you can avoid it. Right?
Sure. But, and you know, my opinion of this service is really this is something that Netflix should already be integrating into their core services in the first place, right? Like they're stepping up and doing something essentially because Netflix has dropped the ball on making things easier for its users to filter through all this content, right? Now, you're saying, Steve, you couldn't find enough content to make it worth your while.
Right.
I wonder if this was part of the reason. Like maybe there was good content, but
and
it was buried
it.
so deep you couldn't bring it up on your screen, right?
And that's something that's really really happening to me and my family right now, is that the way we are consuming entertainment is really, I don't think it's changing. I think it has changed, but we're just realizing it now that I don't, as a kid, I would come home and sit in front of the TV and say, what's on TV? And that never happens anymore. I watch what I want to watch on TV now. I'm not flipping the channels to see what catches my interest. Yeah. Now I'm saying I want to watch the Game of Thrones, so I've got it, and I'm watching it now when I sit down. So it's very directed by me now, as opposed to just I have a half an hour and I happen to watch the news because it was on. So again, canceling cable and buying some stuff for the big TVs and Apple TV, and I don't know what the answer is, but I know paying Rogers $250 a month is not the answer anymore.
Right.
So that's happening in the Campbell household soon.
Well, and we do have Netflix, but we use it 95% of the time for shows for my 4-year-old.
Right.
And so for $8 a month, it's worth it to just get the 4-year-old. Although half the stuff he ends up watching really is either DVDs we get from the library, which is down the street from us, or just stuff on YouTube. And
I know a lot of people that are going back to the library.
Yeah. Really.
Free. Free. They got some good content.
It's free. Yeah. It doesn't use up your bandwidth. Yeah. There's a great selection of the one that we go to.
Do you still have to have a card?
Yeah, you still have to have a card.
I should go back.
You should, man, just for the nostalgia factor.
Yeah, rent out all the Caillou, goes to the beach, and Caillou.
and you know what's funny? When we talk about how we consume media now, my 4-year-old son, this is the only world he's ever known. He doesn't know the world of I'll just turn on TV and see what's on. And so a lot of times when we're in the car and listening to a song on the radio, it took him some time to understand that you don't get to choose what the radio plays. The radio still chooses that for you. Mm-hmm. So now he'll ask me, like, Daddy, when we go home, can we listen to this song on YouTube?
Right.
Because he knows at home we can find it and play it ourselves, but on the radio we can't. So it's a funny, kind of spot to be in the evolution of media technology these days, right?
It is.
And I think the fact that there's a show and then it ends after an hour, if the next show sucked, you went outside or you did something else.
Right.
Well, now you just click next.
Right.
And so one show becomes 3. There goes your Saturday.
That's true, eh? I remember when I was a kid, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon was always crap TV. Mm-hmm. Like on Saturdays, that's when the cartoons ended. If you were home on a weekday, like that's when all the soap opera started. So outside was the only option. Very good point.
Yeah, but it did slowly expose you to the Carol Burnett show and the adult humor. So you kind of like, and then eventually you're like,
never
this
had
is funny.
Interest for me.
Speak for yourself.
If it wasn't a cartoon,
showing my age.
If it didn't have aliens or Muppets, I
you never got into Tim Conway, eh?
No.
Oh, classic.
Sorry, man. You're a few years older than me. Maybe
it's true.
I missed it.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, let's talk about our third article here, guys. Talking about technology use in restaurants. So there was an article that came up. It's kind of been making the viral rounds right now.
Worth the read. I'd say that right now.
Yeah, that was cool, eh?
Yeah.
Right.
Really neat.
Talking about the way that people use technology in restaurants these days compared to 10 years ago, before we lived in the internet-connected age and before all of the social media explosion that we have now. It's a lengthy article, so I'm not going to summarize the whole thing, but the basic point of it is that back in, I guess, 2004 was 10 years ago, they were looking at their security footage, this particular restaurant, for how how the basic operations would run. So a customer comes in, how long does it take them to get spoken to when they initially come into the restaurant? How long does it take them to get seated, to order their food, to receive their food, pay the bill, and get out the door?
Because I guess the restaurant had realized that they had the same amount of customers coming in the door than they did 10 years ago, but they're not making the same money.
That's
and
right.
they were getting different complaints that their service was slow.
Yeah.
So they were like,
They were trying
if
to
we have the
figure
same
out-
number of people coming in and the prices have gone up, what's happening?
Yeah, and trying to figure out where the disconnect is.
Right.
So the results show that I think it was about an hour turnaround time for a given table at a restaurant back in the day.
In 2004.
To order your food, to get served, to chat a little bit, pay your bill, and leave. These days, because so many people are spending time browsing their mobile phones instead of looking at the menu,
trying to get on the Wi-Fi to begin with.
Trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's always a major hassle, right? Taking pictures of their food after it arrives, sharing those pictures, on Instagram with all the foodies, getting the wait staff to take
group photos of them.
Photos of the people, or couple photos, or however it might be, and there's time to kind of figure out, what's the lighting settings on your photo app or whatever, right? Choosing your Instagram filter, and then a bunch more time screwing around on your phone while you're kind of waiting to pay the bill or not paying the bill. It's doubled the length of the restaurant experience now. It's 2 hours kind of in and out instead of 1 hour.
And it really has nothing to do with the restaurant operations. It's the guest operations and what the guest is doing.
And ironically, the guests, are complaining more about the restaurant service and how long it's taking them to have a positive experience at a restaurant, simply because people are making more use of their technology this way. So my first question is, when you guys go to restaurants, do you find that you're spending a lot of time using your mobile device while you're sitting at your table, generally speaking?
Jeff?
I don't think so. I'm not a big, I don't know. I don't like to browse that much, and it's not something I pull it out when there's nothing. So yes, if there's dead space, do I have an issue with getting my order in on time? Absolutely. I'm one of those people that starts a conversation often, and we get all chatty, and then they come, and you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't order yet, or I don't even know what I want. Okay. So I could relate to that part of it, but I wouldn't say the cell phone has been a cause of that hold up for me.
That situation would have been the same 10 years ago.
Exactly.
Whether or not there was technology.
I think so.
Okay.
For me personally, do I think that this makes sense? Absolutely. Like, people are addicted to their phones. I think it's crazy, and that they can't spend time. They got to take a picture of everything. I'm just not like that. I'm not someone that likes to take pictures of stuff and post it everywhere. That's just not my personality.
You're not a food blogger.
I feel like I'm like an old soul that way sometimes. I probably would have been better starting like 20, 30 years back.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
For me, when I look at this article, I don't really immediately see the tech, although that's an easy, low-hanging fruit for what's happening. But what I see when they talk about, we had 49 people in 2004 that we sat in this clip of video we looked at, and 3 asked to be reseated. In 2014, they sat 49 people, and 18 asked to be reseated.
Right.
That's what's happening, and it's a consideration thing that the guest is empowered and
feels a greater sense of entitlement,
and says, "Hey, I can do what I want now." The customer's always right, so I want to sit there, and I know that server is in that section, and you guys are set up, and that server has 4 tables, and I'll be his 5th, and where you sat me, the server doesn't have any tables.
Right.
So operationally, that's a problem, but the customer and their ego have been trained that they're able to do that. So they're doing it. Why not?
And we should point out for our listeners that
I'm a restaurant guy.
Yeah, Stephen spent many, many years in the restaurant industry, both waiting, managing, setting up
it's pretty personal
franchises.
For me.
Yeah,
you couldn't tell, eh?
And this is why I thought this would be an interesting topic to get your take on here, Stephen, because you've kind of been I don't know how long ago did you first get involved in food service?
Yeah, I worked at I lied and said I was 16 so I could get a job at the Guelph McDonald's when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, it started there, and it's been sort of something in and out of my life for my whole life.
For a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a wealth of experience, and you've kind of seen a lot of situations, and you've seen the evolution of
not just the restaurant but the customer too. Yeah, so it's really neat.
question for you guys: who should pay for it? Is it are the customers going to tip more?
Oh, don't get into tipping. That's a whole deep pool.
That's a whole big can of worms.
But yeah, like I think the whole restaurant concept, like there's some really neat the whole food channel explosion and how chefs are the new DJs and music people. You know, it used to be the Gene Simmons, but now it's the chefs that are the famous ones. So
sure.
That whole thing has changed a lot, and food and the restaurant industry, I think, is coming online with tech. We looked at the Applebee's article recently where they're now bringing tablets to each table. So you can order right off of a tablet, which makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of point-of-sale systems that are cool. And in the same breath, Applebee's is now having a No Tech Tuesdays.
Yeah, but
where there's going to be no cell phones and stuff.
Well, there's no elaboration on really what it was about. I think they had just like trademarked the term.
No Tech Tuesdays,
but we're assuming that it's going to be something where they don't allow you to use the tech except maybe just their iPad to do the ordering. I don't know.
Right, yeah, or no cell phones or something, because a lot of their customer base is seniors, and they're so they didn't want to alienate them when they put the iPads or whatever the tablet is at the table. They're going to have a No Tech Tuesday.
I've heard of, I don't even remember where from, it was a movie, but I've heard of the idea of putting all your, when you come. If it's a whole group, putting your phones in the middle, and the first one to grab it has to pay. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of that.
So that must be some story.
I've never done it, but I've heard of it, absolutely. And I find in my own restaurant going experience, often I'm asking you guys to share all the time, and I don't share about myself as much, but I only use my mobile phone, not just at restaurants, but in public in general. If I'm alone and if I'm killing time waiting for something to happen, I'm waiting for a bus, or I'm waiting for my wife who's in the bathroom, or whatever it might be, right? But if I'm sitting with a group of people, maybe it's just, once again, we're a little bit older, a bunch of us here. If I was a young 20-something, maybe the culture has changed where it's not rude to pull out your phone and be texting with your friends, or in front of your friends, or in front of the people you're with. But I just feel like I have the opportunity to connect with somebody in front of me. Why would I not be taking advantage of it, I guess?
If it buzzes in your pocket to say you've got a text or a message, would you not pull it out just to look at who did it?
Well, and maybe not respond, but occasionally, to see. Right? Yeah.
I'm hated for that, because I will go 1 or 2 hours
without even looking.
Not even looking.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's very common. So I'm kind of probably known as the non-reliable one to get back quickly, but I guess I just kind of protected that part because I want to be in the moment. I don't want to.
Right.
Yeah.
I find it hard to do both. I'm not good at that.
See, I often find especially if I'm out somewhere without my wife, I'll often check because it might be her saying call home right away.
I don't have that, so that I can respect that.
But I can use that as an excuse if I really just want to check whoever the message is from. Oh, this might be my wife. Just give me a second.
Yeah, and it's become such an instantaneous gratification thing that you can communicate with your wife so effortlessly with just a couple words and texts that it's powerful. So then I am a sneak peeker that I won't pull it out at the restaurant to text on or to play a video game or do stuff, but I'll look at it 4 times. And maybe not up on the table, but it'll peek out of the pocket and I'll look at it. And especially if it vibrates, I need to know. I have a hard time sitting for 2 hours knowing that somebody just texted me or emailed me something.
Disconnect it. Don't make it your arm. Make it put it in your jacket or something.
Yeah, that's
honestly, because that vibration is what causes you to start to think about it.
And I get the phantom vibrations where I'm like, oh, wait a minute, it's not even in my pocket. That's the strangest thing.
This is a whole other topic, but something like when you feel like your muscle twitch in your leg or something, did my phone just go off?
Yeah, it's phantom buzz.
And apparently it's a real issue for people, right? Like this is a medical condition that never existed, 10 years ago, and now so many people can relate to the situation. It's crazy. I've never taken a picture of my food, incidentally. I'm proud that I can claim. My wife has taken many pictures of foods, but it's mostly some concoction that she's whipped up experimentally or something, and she wants to share it, but not in a restaurant. Only her own kind of stuff. I don't know. Are you a food picture taker, Steve?
No, I'm not. But I'm a big Food Network watcher, so I'm a big fan of food. But no, I haven't done any. No.
Nah. I guess if I was out somewhere and there was some crazy thing I ordered, like bacon wrapped pork stuffed in a duck in a turkey or something.
Wow.
Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah, all the time. We used to serve it at the Charcoal Steakhouse. Turducken.
No, there is, but seriously, there is something like that, right?
No, I've heard. I've heard.
Yeah, I'd eat it.
Anyway.
You said bacon, so I'd eat it.
Yeah, fair enough. I might take a picture of something unique like that.
Yeah, if you see that dish, do take a picture of it.
Yeah, why not? Why not, man? All right. Well, I think we should really talk to Jeff a bit about what he's doing here. Now that we've exhausted the topics of restaurants, Netflix, and Lego phones.
I feel like we could go for quite a while on that.
Yeah,
we probably could, but it's only an hour-long podcast, so we want to find out a bit about what you're doing. So, first of all, maybe tell us a little bit about. We want to hear about Echosims, but maybe you can tell us a bit about how you ended up where you are now. You're not a code writer, if I understand.
Absolutely. Yep. You got that right.
You're more on the business side, but you are very much in the tech industry. So is this where you always saw yourself, or how did you end up where you are now?
It all started on a one cold and windy night.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting way of putting it. I actually recently was thinking about that. Your exact question there, is this where I saw myself?
Right.
And the answer to that would be no. Okay. I had no vision, which is something that I'm kind of looking at now, because eventually it comes the time when you want to figure out, where is this going? Where am I going, right? Mm-hmm. But it's kind of been a roller coaster that I've been on, and even coming to Conley College here and how I got into the marketing programs was a whirlwind. It wasn't like I had this dream and this exact goal in mind. Right. And starting the company, Echosims, was really just, I guess, right place, right time. It was a co-op position I was in a local company, and just got in with the sales guys there and started to work with their customers. Then all of a sudden we're in a meeting, and one of them's like, can you do this for me? Right. And I kind of look around the room like, is this allowed? And I'm like, sure. And all of a sudden, and I guess that's me. I'm more the sales guy, so I don't have the technical background. Sure. So I made a sale before I had a company, and that's kind of what I've brought to our company ever since then. So
typical salesman.
Yeah. And that's the best way to do it, really. 'Cause most people build a company and then they're like, does anybody want what I can actually provide?
That's true. They both come with pros and cons, because the con then is, can you deliver on it, right? And so I guess the last 3 going on 4 years has been developing what our service is, and that's taken a long journey. Okay. And because we didn't have this, I didn't come with, I am a designer or I have a technical background, so I really want to do this. We can adapt what the customer wants. Right. So our company's very much been like that, where we've adapted. My business partner is in the same boat, business background. So we've steered the company by listening to the customer and understanding what their needs are. Sure. And I notice that's tougher for people, especially in the design world, because if you're a designer and you're passionate about it, you don't want to weaken your designs, even if your customers want that, right? Yeah. So anyways...
but you can be an amazing designer and have nobody want your stuff.
You can,
which
is another problem.
Which is fine. You can hang stuff in your room on your wall, make your own personal art gallery, and be broke. That's what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Hopefully somebody likes it when you die.
Maybe that's the best case scenario. Yes. I think. So did you mentioned you went to Conestoga for marketing? Was that straight out of high school or?
Yeah, pretty much. I did a bit of traveling, but it was pretty much straight out of high school. So that's where the roller coaster has been happening here. Okay. And
did you and your partner, your co-founder, were you working together before you started the company, or? No,
he's actually a cousin, so that made it simple. To as far as we knew each other for a long time. We used to be in a band together back in the day too.
Really?
So we had a good foundational relationship, and we'd already failed. Our big dream of being rock stars had fallen
I was just going to ask you if you guys, because all I hear from you is success stories. So have you failed forward, or was that the only one you did, other than the roller coaster you talk about?
I wouldn't call it a fail. I mean, we just maybe we gave up. I don't know.
Was it long hair?
Music? What kind of music?
It would have been, I don't know, punk rock, whatever, just
right. Like
it's that genre that never had a genre. It was just kind of in the middle there, but a mix of a bunch of stuff.
Can we find any of your music online? Do you have
MySpace is still up?
MySpace, yeah. What was the name of the band? I know I'm off topic.
You guys are going in hard here. It was Mass Deficit.
Mass Deficit.
Sounds intense, eh?
Yeah. It does.
Had a good write up too. It was
also, there's some press on it.
Oh, there is Deep meaning, of course.
You know, if we can find a good link, we'll put it in the.
Boy,
we'll add it to the links for the podcast here.
That's funny.
Okay, so mass deficit doesn't take off the way you want. No. So you and your cousin get together again. You already know what some potential customers are looking for.
Yeah, well, I brought him that customer. Basically, it was kind of like, "Yay, we got this!"
Awesome.
And actually, so it was in conversation. He'd already done a bunch of stuff online and like worked with companies.
He had been building websites already. Okay,
kind of as an aside thing, and so he had a lot more experience in it. He did some online companies where there was a dog business where he was teaching stuff online. I don't know. Really, I don't know much detail about it. That's his story. But yeah, he had a background in it and definitely helped in our start of our company. And we did the whole bootstrapping thing. We didn't try to go get loans or anything. We just worked out of a house and just long nights.
Did you have to hire any like hardcore developers?
From the beginning. From the beginning, we've had to hire people.
So where did you find the money for that? Like just digging your own pockets?
No, you get a down payment from the first project. I mean, since the beginning, we've used the money. You sell. Yeah. So that's from the beginning. Wow. That's how it's always been. Yeah.
Wow. So you're hiring your talent based on the down payment for the project that you don't actually have the talent to create at the time.
Absolutely.
But you know you can acquire it.
That's it.
That's bootstrapping, all right.
It was. It's
a fine line.
Wow. So I'm assuming you have like a bunch of full-time employees on board now. Yep. Like how big is the company at the moment?
So basically, how we've structured it, it's definitely changed a lot. We've tried some in-house and also just hiring contractors. So there's 5 full-time in-house every day for our Echosims.
Okay.
But then we don't have any web developers in-house. So we found that the talent typically has their own process and their own environment that they prefer to stay in.
Right.
And why try to stick them in our environment? So we work with developers who work at home.
Okay.
And so that can fluctuate based on the amount of projects we have and stuff. But yeah.
Sure.
So partnerships.
So
partnerships.
The 5 people that you do have in your office, what kind of gaps are they filling then?
Yeah, so a big one for the website industry was project management. The size of clients we work with, they don't have the time, and a project can go off the rails real quick. So project management is a real big role for us. Strategy up front, laying out the game plan. We don't like to just do websites for the sake of building a website. It's, what's the plan here? What's the goal? What are you trying to achieve?
A wider arcing strategy for their business.
Exactly, and getting to understand them. A lot of people have good insight as far as what they're asking. They're saying, I want it, and I want it to be responsive, and they have good technical ideas, but they don't really know how it fits into their business. We're really focused on how does it fit into your sales side of your business. That's our background. So that's kind of the flavor we bring, is trying to understand how is this going to grow your company and help you achieve your goals.
So I'm assuming a lot of the people you're dealing with would be like business-based, of course they're businesses, but companies that have a product and they're trying to move sales. If you're talking about sales being, a major kind of area of expertise you can bring to bear on what they're doing, right? It's not going to be necessarily a guy who just wants a site about his cat or something.
Absolutely, and that's just it. It's got to be. There's non-for-profit that we definitely work with as well.
You guys do some brand building as well.
Yes. Yeah. Depends on how long you want me to go on about it. We have basically what we've created. What we learned was we could only do one thing well.
Right.
And to try to take on more than that. Initially, I remember trying to do logos. A customer would be like, I need a website, but I also need a logo. And we'd be like, oh, yeah, we'll kind of throw that in. And then it became the biggest headache of the project. We didn't make any money on it. We lost money. Right. So we learned we aren't designers. That's not our skill set. So we work with a partner, Leslie Warren, who does that really well. Same with video, same with photography. All these components, we don't try to do it all. We work with partners. So I guess in that sense, the team is a lot bigger because you have a lot of skill sets to tap into. So that's kind of how we work.
It's the community that's building the business as opposed to just your team, right?
Yeah, and people who are passionate and great at managing what they do, right?
Right.
Sure. So let me ask you a question then. Do you guys use Meersocial as an add-on to Echosims, or is it its own separate entity that a company would approach for a strategy?
Well, the funny part that probably most people don't know is Echosims started in social media. So our first projects weren't websites. They were managing social accounts for businesses.
Oh, okay.
And
Facebook pages?
Yeah, Facebook pages. That was probably the biggest one at the time. And it was before that really existed. So we would have been right at the beginning of that. People were aware. I would say it was still in the quote fad stage where people were calling it a fad still.
Right.
And we were trying to say it's not a fad. Let's learn how this works for you and engaging with your customers. We learned in the early stages that managed service doesn't work for social media. So, I mean, if I'm bursting a bubble here, I'll just put that out there. It isn't the best solution because it's not marketing. It's a relationship. Right. If you want it to work, it's got to be a real relationship. You got to have people who are buying into what you're talking about, know who you are.
Right.
And so that's where it wasn't working the way we originally had our business plan. So we had these relationships with these customers. They liked us a lot, but we came back to them and said, we can't do this for you anymore because it's not making you money.
Right.
And we know it, right?
Yeah.
And they said to us, okay, so what else can you do for us? Hence the long evolution of Echosims.
Yeah.
Right? But we always knew social media it's got so much potential. There is a lot of value in there. We did some test campaigns. We did something called 29 Leaps early on.
Okay.
It's going to be coming up again whenever the next leap year is.
Okay.
But I'm going to guess 2 or 3 years ago we did it where we just wanted to test out social media for the sake of just seeing what kind of movement can we make.
Right.
And we were just saying during the month of February, that leap year, let's do something for someone else. And we opened it up to any charity and everything. And we just drove it through social media. And the stats were crazy. And Kitchener-Waterloo ended up getting caught in the local media. And it was a pretty cool proof to us that this is something powerful that can make things happen quick.
Right.
But most companies don't know how to tap into that because they don't get how to talk about their value, right? Or something that's engaging for the customer.
So that's interesting because right at the beginning, I talked about social commerce being one of my buzzwords. And social commerce is sort of like e-commerce. Or electronic commerce. Social commerce is now making money with social media. So it's like S-commerce or F-commerce, Facebook commerce. So that's where you guys started with social commerce. So you weren't even e-commerce, which was websites. It was specifically Facebook commerce. So that's
exactly. And it was kind of weird because we were like called the social media guys through a lot of years where we didn't really particularly serve anything regarding social media. We didn't have services. We didn't even want to charge people as consultants because we didn't feel good about it, or we weren't too sure where it was headed.
Sure.
But I guess looking back at it, it was something we were always passionate and believed in, and hence where Meersocial came in. And that's a much newer project, and it was another local guy, David Tubbs, who brought us this idea of, you know what, more people should be educated on social media because they're getting taken advantage of by consultants or trying to run things that just aren't working. And that was really where the idea came from Meersocial. We could buy into it, which is, you know, creating a more affordable way for people to learn about it. How does this work for my business? How can I grow my business with it?
You're not going to manage the social media for a business. You're going to educate the business on how to manage their social media properly.
That, or educate one of their marketing managers, or educate one of their co-op students, or whatever it is. Someone internal who has more of an invested interest is in the day-to-day operations.
Right.
Or especially sales reps. That's, I mean, when we've been learning, it really comes down to sales reps have the relationship with customers, right? Even in business to business. And LinkedIn is a super powerful tool if used properly. But I would say probably, I don't know a stat, but high percentage of people just have a LinkedIn account that sits there and does nothing, right?
Yeah, it's true. You know, and even with, you know, I feel like I know social media pretty well, and I know the amount of time I've invested in LinkedIn is very small compared to the potential there, right?
Exactly.
I just find LinkedIn is one of my own little quirks where I find it's a little quirky and unpredictable sometimes with its notification system and its pester factor.
I was offered to go to premium today, and I declined it. I'm waiting for a really good time to upgrade to premium for my free month,
right?
To see what doors open there.
But there's no disputing that LinkedIn has become, you know, a major force in, you know, the social media realm, right?
Maybe what I'd say that I don't know how to put this in words too well, but I found an interesting thing is that people look at LinkedIn maybe as an isolated thing and say, LinkedIn doesn't work for me. Well, okay, but what role can it play among your whole sales strategy?
Right.
So is it just a way that opens doors to at least get meetings, to then generate more buzz, to then have a lead come through? You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be a part. It's not about dropping all that's worked in the past, right? So maybe cold calling's dead, and LinkedIn can replace that portion of getting in front of people.
Sure.
It's not going to replace the face-to-face relationships, the value proposition when you're selling. Like it doesn't replace all that. And that's where sometimes I feel like people put too much pressure on some of these social networks as if they're supposed to be the be-all, end-all. I think it takes a lot of testing, trying it out for yourself, and exploring, right? So with Meersocial, it's about people coming on with their own business. You should know your own company, your target market, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just coaching you through some of the basics to set stuff up and get testing and try things out. Right. Okay. So that's kind of the premise of it, but that's just an opinion.
Is it a subscription model, or how do I?
Yeah. Basically, that's how we've set it up now. I mean, we have a subscription model, and there's kind of two target markets for us that we're trying to figure out. This is what happens when you have a startup, right? You're trying to find out where your market is. And one of them, the small business, would be subscription. There's also an enterprise solution. We found a lot of intrigue from an enterprise standpoint, where an entire sales force would want to come on and use it.
Oh, wow.
Have their own private portal. Because the point of it too is social media's got a lot of learning ahead. I mean, there's no book. If there is a book, it's going to be extinct soon because all of a sudden something else comes out, right?
Yeah, it evolves quickly. Yeah.
It's going to move very quickly. And so what we've created is a community. That's what we want, is for members to not just be takers, but also givers, people that are giving their opinion. And I think that's when the value is really going to come. So
like Reddit for social media?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Those are the things that really, I think, are exciting.
Yeah.
And when people, we're not trying to stand here and say we're the experts, because we know that one thing can be different for two different people. So it's about getting lots of opinions in and finding out what are the most common denominators, and even celebrating the anomalies. Like every now and then it's cool to find something that one person made work that no one else can figure out how it works, right?
Yeah, that is cool.
So.
And just so the listeners know, we do provide green, comfortable chairs. We don't stand during our podcast, but we do sit. So
I wanted to ask, Jeff, maybe your opinion about just the breadth of social media that's out there right now. I know kind of the big names on the block for a while now have been, Facebook, Twitter, and maybe LinkedIn. And then you have what I would think are kind of the secondary players like Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr, a bunch of other ones there. Do you guys, have a list that you kind of target and say, here are the ones that you need to be on, here are the ones that are optional? Do you see value in a business having its own Instagram account or Pinterest board, or does it really depend on the nature of the business or the organization if some of those other things are going to be helpful to them or not? And
it's time to drop the AOL account. That kind of advice.
We don't have any AOL stuff on there, but
yeah. Or even MySpace. I mean, bands are still using MySpace, but not many other people are, right?
The best bands, okay?
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, so can you, in your opinion, is there kind of a core set that every business should be involved with, and then a secondary set, or what do you guys focus on when you're educating people?
So I'll answer maybe in two parts. The way we've set it up is the first section is about understanding where you should be.
Okay.
So it is about highlighting some of the main ones, and kind of the second part to it is we don't cover all the social networks. That's the dream, that's the plan.
Right.
But again, you got to make sales to have the team to go do the research to get the video up there, right? So we've kind of stuck to the main ones right now on our network. And
are you able to tell us which ones those are?
Yeah, so the primary ones being Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn were probably the three biggest ones, and we have some information on YouTube. And David he'd be way more qualified to answer this because he has all the game plan for which ones, but I'm pretty sure Instagram and some of those are already in the works. I'm not even too sure where they're at, but we're wanting to cover those for sure.
Like I could see if you're in a business like doing wedding cakes or health food production or something like that, then having a Pinterest board would be of high value, right?
Absolutely.
or an Instagram account. Whereas if you're a software company, maybe not so much. Maybe you need to have a YouTube account to demonstrate some of your UI for your software, or if you're a gaming company, right, you want to have a place for your demos. But I mean, because I know personally as an entrepreneur, I get overwhelmed sometimes thinking, if I want to get my business kind of set up, quote unquote, properly on social media, how much time do I have to dedicate to make this happen? Just in posting the podcast, it takes me like an hour and a half to get all the links set up and make sure when it publishes to all the different places it publishes to, that everything's going out the right way.
Yeah, things aren't getting more easy. Like you have all cross browsers that you have to accommodate. When mobile development, you have to go to different phones, BlackBerry versus Android versus Apple versus...
When I think as a business,
same with social media.
If I'm going to have to like look for customer comments on my Facebook site, my blog site, my actual company website, I have an email account that I'm receiving feedback from. I might have comments posted on my YouTube account if I have stuff. It's
a lot to manage.
Right? There's other people that are responding and retweeting the stuff that I might go out on my Twitter account. Like I feel like you could spend 8 hours a day, just depending on how busy your company is or how interactive they are on the social media scene, just dealing with your social media. Like there's got to be kind of a place, I guess, for an early stage company to say, listen, just get on this and this and this.
Yep.
And once you're big enough to hire someone to manage your social media full time, then you can get on board with the rest.
Well, and the other interesting thing, yeah, you bring up great points there. I think for us, with Meersocial, one of the exciting things has been we've been able to do some face-to-face consulting. That because what we'll do is we'll do some face-to-face, and then they'll go do the curriculum, and then a sales team will come back together and talk. When you have a sales team and a business, maybe it makes sense for the company to have the account, but as an individual sales rep, why would you have a YouTube account, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's where there's kind of a strategy there depending on the company.
Right.
In your situation there, I think probably the biggest point, do one thing well.
Right.
I mean, don't just get half the results from each, feeling overwhelmed. I think most people are like that. They feel overwhelmed, exhausted. That shouldn't be your social media experience. It should be productive and feeling worthwhile, right? Or at least, I think the biggest problem with that is you put all the energy into just getting it done. You never stop to look at what actually came out of it.
Right.
Yeah. So what is the answer? Are we able to turn likes into dollars, or are we not yet? Is there an answer to that question? Like, should I, as a business, spend all that time cultivating those relationships? Is there money at the end of that tunnel, or is that really just making fanboys and creating customers that are going to, talk about you and the buzz and sort of the long-term investment?
I think there's different ways of getting likes. So depending on the like, it probably has more impact than others. I really like some of the business models. Some of those companies that are selling their clothing online now. Is it Frank and Oak or? There's a couple companies that have really cool models, referral models.
Okay.
And so these e-commerce companies, I think, are at the cutting edge of it in how they generate me as a user utilizing me as I'm pumped about it. Like I was sold on it by a friend, not by ads.
Yeah.
Right. So there's power to that for sure. I guess likes for dollars. Then I don't think you can quite equate that. I can remember a picture we used to draw, which was a tree, the classic marketing tree, right? Everyone used it, but it was so funny because we created it thinking it was so original.
Right. And
then you go online and you find out everyone's used this growth tree, right? But anyways, the analogy we used to have was picture a tree full of apples and you want to collect all the apples, but they're at different levels. The classic saying, catch the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
You've drawn that tree for me.
Yeah. Oh, did I?
Yeah.
There you go. I did share that example.
You used a red marker for the apples, which I really appreciated.
Yeah. I'm a terrible drawer, so I'm glad you remembered that.
We knew it was a tree. It was either a tree or an octopus.
But the point is, social media to me is further up the tree. So let's say you're starting out as a company. What's your game plan? Are you trying to grow this company to sell it in 2 years? If that's your game plan, social media, depending on, is probably not the game plan for you. There's other ways to create hype. But if you're in it for the long haul and you're talking about relationships with customers for a long time, every investment you make, each tweet, each post, everything should be adding up to something valuable in the end.
Right.
I can't say that. You'd have to track it to find out. But in that sense, you're not trying to quantify the return on investment in the moment because it doesn't exist most of the time.
Right.
You can't. I think most people do that. They go on for 3 months and then they stop. And it's like, okay, did you really expect the marketing to work after 3 months? And I don't know. So that's where I think if you do one thing well, you'll be tracking it better. You'll be improving it. Then that gives you energy to keep going versus doing 3 things kind of at a half level and
not seeing a lot of traction.
And you give up on all of them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Sounds like my blogging experience, actually. I think I update it every year and a half, thinking, now I will finally build a blog that people want to read. And so most of my blogs end up being about, I'm finally back on blogging again.
Exactly. And it's funny because I mentioned maybe that early on we were kind of the ones that were breaking the whole it's a fad myth, because we're like, it's not a fad. I found, and I don't know if it exists now as much, but I've definitely found that my voice has changed to business owners, trying to warn them that this isn't your be-all, end-all. Like, don't think social media is a strategy if you haven't thought through it. Like, it's not going to all of a sudden...
It's not going to save your business or double your sales or whatever.
And when we were in school... This is a funny side story. I used to do the marketing competitions here at the school.
Yeah.
And we pitched, I won't even use names, but we pitched, we got to pitch real companies. We pitched a CD company, like a CD store at the time, big name at the time, who then went broke.
Right.
You can figure it out.
But wink, wink.
We were pitching them a marketing case, and we gave an amazing. We said, get rid of all your CDs, turn your store into like this like whole social, virtual, and everything. We had this great plan, and they were like, no, like you have to have inventory and CDs in there. So they totally bashed our plan, and then like 6 months later they went bankrupt.
Yeah,
and
that's what everybody was doing.
Well, yeah. So there was that time, but it was funny because at the time people used to just put, use social media. Yeah. And then that's all they'd elaborate on in the marketing strategy. It was like, well, where's all the follow-up? Like, okay, so I set up my Facebook page, done. Yeah. Like, right? So I hope the expectation of even from the schools right now is that people go in a little bit more in depth and explain their reasons why. But there's a lack of, back to the lack of education. Why do we start this company? It's not in the schools enough yet. It's not... even if you go to a seminar, you're not going to learn enough. It just overwhelms you, right? So that's
a lot
really
more questions than answers, it sounds like. So people are still asking those questions.
Well, and a lot of experimentation still ongoing, I think, and evolution, right? So you need a group, hopefully like yourselves, who are staying on top of social media as it evolves, and can keep people on track, your customers.
That's the game plan.
For your social. Yeah, absolutely. Where can people go if they want to either enlist your services for Echosims or get on board with Meersocial with their company? How can they connect with you guys and sign up?
Yeah, so we're Meersocial. I think check out the site. We got a video on there. There's
Can we just spell? How do you spell
MEER?
MEER
Social. S-O.
Okay.
Do you want me to spell the whole thing?
You don't have to spell social.
.com.
Mirror. There could be a few different ways.
Yeah,
okay, that's
you're
good.
right. It's a meerkat. You'll see it when you see the visual helps then, but it's
it's a really neat logo, and I like the website. It's I like the branding of it. It's very 3P color wise, and
to go a bit more in depth on that, like if there's not, you don't get to see the whole backend system, which is probably a flaw on our part. We're trying to give you more of that experience because you'll come on and you'll see a video. Okay, cool. You'll read a couple things. If you want to check out the backend and you've got an interest, I'm happy to give people trials of that.
Sure.
So I mean, even emailing me if you want to put that on the.
Yeah, I can include your email address on our.
Send the email address out.
But maybe we can just say it. Can we say it out loud on the podcast?
Sure. It's JHORST Horst.
J Horst. Yeah.
At Meersocial.com.
Okay.
So,
easy enough. Cool.
And then for Echosims, so basically email me directly if you want to get the conversation going right away. We have a website. You can check out some of the work we've done there.
Is that Echosims.com?
Yes, Echosims.com.
Okay.
And we are just about to launch a new website as well. So it should be updated with more recent stuff. And
can I assume we can find you on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else? Yeah.
All that fun stuff. I would say, trying to focus things, Twitter is where...
Twitter's where it's at?
You engage me on.
And what's the Twitter handle?
Mine is just Jeff Horst.
Okay.
So I got the original JEFFHORST.
Nice. All the other Jeff.
You'll notice there's not many tweets and not a ton of followers. I'm not huge into it, but I keep Facebook more as a personal thing. I mean, that's everyone's own choice, but that's more friends and connections. So Twitter's the business space.
Where to make it happen.
Sure.
Excellent. And do you guys deal with local companies as well as
primarily? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
for sure, if you're in Kitchener-Waterloo area, you can. If somebody's listening to this in Vancouver or Seattle or something, can they still enlist your services?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
go where the money is. No, it's cool with what we do. We can definitely do it virtually.
Okay.
And
that's awesome.
those are fun projects too. We've just that's a whole other story. But early on, we found out that going local and digging our roots here was the best option, and it's created a lot more referrals, and this is just an awesome place, right?
Yeah.
It's a good spot
almighty
to start.
KW.
Yeah. It's a good place to put down roots so you can grow further out, right?
Exactly.
You can grow that tree.
Exactly. Grow the tree, collect the apples.
Awesome.
Nicely done.
Well, we're coming up on an hour, so I think we'll just wrap things up here. You've given us a lot to think about, Jeff. I think when my business is ready to start taking things to the next level and making proper use of social media, I think you're going to be at the top of the list.
Well, the best part is I just sell it. I don't actually do anything. The guys behind the scenes are way smarter than me. So this is just the surface level stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's good
where
to
we're
know.
at.
That's wild. Well, let's wrap things up here then. First of all, thank you to our listeners for joining us for another episode of TSP Weekly. Special thanks to the Center for Entrepreneurship here at Conestoga College for letting us record here. And please feel free to send your comments, your questions, your criticisms, your feedback to us at feedback@tspweekly.com. You can also just go to tspweekly.com and leave a comment on the post for this episode. That would be wonderful. Next week, we have Beth and Laura from Drafting Space, exciting local startup here in Kitchener-Waterloo, coming to talk to us a bit about what they're doing.
Should be fun.
Yep, should be awesome. I think the first time we'll have 2 female guests, actually.
We've had 2 couples on now.
Yep. We're hitting all kinds of new milestones here.
Ooh,
Crazy.
Yeah, I heard that. That's awesome.
So, for myself, Darren Conley, for my co-host, Stephen Campbell, and our guest, Jeff Horst, thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll see you guys all next week.